on top of like helping the community out and the industries in general that are involved, XR and blockchain, IoT, etc. Looking at brands and what their actual needs are, and then how we can help solve problems with these technologies.
Hello everyone, and welcome yet to another episode of NEWFORUM. NEWFORUM brings together leaders, creators, new starters, and new perspectives on crypto, the metaverse, NFTs, social 3, and DAOs.
And on today's episode, we have Joh. Joh is the CEO and founder of Spatial8. He's also the co-founder of Exthereal, a digital fashion event. We're going to hear more about this on this episode. He's an ecosystem builder for emerging tech companies, and we are super excited to have Joh on this episode. Hey, Joh, can you tell us about yourself, what inspires you, and your work with Spatial8?
I'm very interested in startup and business ecosystems ever since I got involved in the startup scene, which was in 2018. And I was part of this talent accelerator here in Helsinki called The Shortcut. And the idea was to introduce people looking for work in the tech startup scene. So I used to be a teacher. I taught English in the university, and I was looking for something different, something more challenging for me. And anyhow, so when I joined this talent accelerator, the first week I was there, I kept hearing about startup ecosystem this, startup ecosystem that, and that weekend this kind of question popped into my head, like, well, where do startups go when they die? And it wasn't like a religious question, it was more like, well, if you have these startups that are failing, people say as high as like 90%. Well, what, in a biological or natural ecosystem, the dead animal or tree kind of goes back into the ground and it feeds, the nutrients, like feed the forest, for example. So with that happening in like the startup ecosystem? And then I started thinking, well, is there like a mechanism that can be created that can recycle startups? And that sent me off on this kind of quest. And even though during that time I set up a team, I had a team going, and we were trying to figure out what the business opportunities were there. We didn't really get beyond the idea stage, but that question like hasn't left my brain. It's still there, and it inspired Spatial8. So I met my future business partner. He was working at a telecom called Telia that's big over here, and actually they're one of our partners now as well. And I met him and I started talking about this kind of stuff, and he was like very interested. He was actually studying at a university as well. He still is. And kind of from there, that's where Spatial8 was born. We decided that we were very much into XR, AR, VR, and we looked at it with like this ecosystem lens and said, hey, there's something here. For example, you see a lot of small companies, and they're competing with each other, trying to get projects. And we said, well, what if we bring them together, and then we can go to brands and get bigger projects, and they kind of like split the pie with everyone. And then we can also connect them with one another and create this kind of internal market and kind of spread the wealth around and do this kind of thing. So that's where the company was born. But that desire to like bring people and companies together and see how we can work together is still very much a part of my drive.
That's really interesting. Yeah, but that is a really interesting story because, sometimes it might be that one startup needs something, is missing something, capital or whatever, and you just brought that thought together of like, well, we could actually just form one ecosystem and benefit off each other. And talking about that, like, right now is like we are getting into the space of Web3, everyone within our community is talking about it. And I'm wondering, so what do you see is the potential for Web3 and also for these startups maybe, and with Spatial8, like what do you see is the potential for Web3?
Yeah, great question. Well, at root, Spatial8 is a brokerage. That's how we started out. And if you look at the kind of technologies that are around Web3, the idea is basically to remove the middleman, so to speak. So then that will kind of put us out of a job, right? But if we are constantly trying to push the envelope, and we're basically like my business partner Demu says, eat our own dog food, then we need to use and experiment with those technologies to see if we can kind of put ourselves out of business, so to speak. That's kind of, it's only right if we're going in that direction. And we're very interested in experimenting with that and kind of seeing how we can create a platform that utilizes these technologies and see, what Spatial8 would look like in the next level. I mean, we don't know for sure if this is a thing that would work or not, but ever since we were founded, we actually thought of being a co-op at first. So, you look at DAOs and you look at co-ops, you look at like everybody's an owner, co-owner, and these kind of ideas resonate with us very much.
So you're touching on a lot of points. It used to be kind of like, okay, the company or the startup, they would go fund or they would try to get capital, and or also even within the normal working space, you would get a job, and you would also, you would have to have like kind of like this offer request system, and so you're trying to kind of find out the way how to build this ecosystem around itself, so without the middleman. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's one way we could approach it. I mean, it's hard to, I mean, I wouldn't say that we would completely off the bat, like tomorrow, switch it over, because as you know, with Web3 tech, it's hard to go back once you go forward. But in order to experiment, that's something that we definitely would like to do, to see, okay, if we take what we're doing now and kind of remove ourselves from the equation, but still be a community and still have a platform that does the same thing, what would that look like? Would it be better for the companies and the employees, and these kind of things? This is something that we are looking into and will continue to look into in the future. And then eventually experiment with when the time is right.
That's awesome. I definitely understand when you use the word experiment, but could you explain a little bit when you use the word experiment in the context that you're using it? I think it would be nice for the audience to sort of understand what you mean by experiment.
Yeah, good question. I think that either creating a community out of the companies or the individuals that are in our companies now, because we in our ecosystem, we're a private company, but we have 56, 57 companies that are part of the ecosystem. And amongst those companies and individuals, there might be a community that can spin out of that and say, hey, let's try setting up a DAO that would basically be Spatial8 Junior or something like that, or Spatial8 DAO, or whatever you want to call it, and then either build on our own chain or connect to another chain, and kind of see how that would work out. I guess that's one way of looking at it. I mean, we haven't really got to that level yet, like white paper level yet, but that's one thing that we've been talking about.
Right.
So not like completely turning Spatial8 into a DAO, but kind of having something similar close by that if it didn't work, it didn't work, and if it works, then well, let's see what the next step would be.
So in the beginning, I mentioned that we were going to hear more about Exthereal, a digital fashion event, and we know something went on in December, and I'm wondering if you could tell our audience a bit more about how that went for you and for the guests that attended.
Sure. I can tell a little bit of backstory first.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
So I'm a co-producer, co-organizer of All Night Northern XR, which is basically a branded meetup from Augmented World Expo. And I was looking at, okay, well, what's going on now? Let's have a really cool episode to end off the year, and that was 2020. And it was like, all right, how about fashion and how an extended reality? All right, that's cool. So I found the right people, and it was really a hit. That episode, that meeting, and that episode was a hit. So two of the people that were participating in that event, I said, hey, and these became the co-founders of Exthereal, Olesia and Krista, and my business partner Temu and Spatial8. And we said, there's something here. Obviously, people still wanted to talk, even though the time was over for the meetup. What should we do with this? And it turned out that, hey, let's have an event. Okay, yeah, let's have like a one-day event. Let's try it out. Let's make it online. Well, it grew into like a three-day monster.
Mhm.
But we were able to get partners from Accenture, from Microsoft, and we were able to get some wonderful speakers from like the whole spectrum, from gaming, from avatars to digital fashion to extended reality. We were able to have AR experiences and other immersive experiences like an immersive website that was created by our partner Zoan. We were able to have a fashion show based in green screen, and that was also created by Zoan. And we were highlighting some of the top Finnish fashion designers, and that was big. I've never been a part of anything like that. So like I said, it's a huge learning experience, and we'd love to do one again next year if possible. I think it was a big hit, quite challenging, because if you look at like Metaverse and Web3 and all the things that are going on now, every week, every month is like a year's worth of like news. So it was a challenge of like, all right, if we're talking about this topic, will it be relevant in December? Will people, will it be old news? So it was kind of like constantly like a battle and a balance of what's going to continue to be relevant and what's going to be interesting and engaging for the audience. But it turned out really well. I mean, for end of the year thing, you would think people would be burnt out with all this stuff. People were still excited, and we got a lot of great feedback.
Yeah, I think actually my coworker told me about it, and I was, we are always scanning opportunities. Obviously, we're also working, so we can't attend like all the time with like Twitter meetups and everything. But I just remember she told me about it, and I think she joined as well. And it's for us learning everything, and people like young people who want to get involved, like founders, fashion designers. I think it's a great opportunity. And I guess the VR fashion show sounds really exciting to me, to see all these things that can really be possible in the metaverse. So I'm wondering, what is the challenge you have experienced or observed with most companies in the digital age? As your role as a strategist, where do you see maybe the future for brands, and where maybe they can go wrong? How would you assess that?
I think, despite like the bubble that we're kind of in, you hear about this brand and that brand, they're utilizing AR, they're utilizing NFTs or what have you. There's still a slowness for brands to truly adopt digital technologies, especially like the older industries like construction or like these institutions that take longer to make decisions like education. And even when they make a decision to experiment with technologies like AR, for example, they might not understand the technology or what they can actually do with it, because of course, like it's emerging technology still. So it's a continuous like learning process for us at Spatial8 and for us in the industry in general, to kind of find out where these different industries and different companies and brands are, and also like to help educate them and find out what their needs are, and then find out if this technology can actually be utilized. Because there's a lot of one and done projects out there, and it doesn't help the industry out. And even though it might bring back some return on investment for a brand, they don't really know what else they can do with it. So there are these kind of things going on, but it's kind of part of what happens in these kind of when these technologies are new and people still don't know what to do with it, and it takes its own time. It's kind of necessary process. I would say.
I guess the combination and intersection is quite unfigured out, like how can we bring together an app with the VR, or how can we bring different people together to really make something that is also nice for the user and that also makes sense from a company's perspective. You want to have a sustainable business. And it's a very interesting space. We also trying to figure out, maybe also regarding fashion, like I realized a lot of brands right now are trying to hop onto the trend, traditional brands, or trying to bring in metaverse designers or different technology experts. So do you think that most of the traditional brands are going to adapt to the change, or do you think it's going to be a mix of new, let's say, underground tech startups and what we see right now? It's
I can see a mix happening. You have companies like the Fabricant, the first digital fashion house, digital only fashion house. That's new school. That I'm sure you see more of them happening, and there are going to be more happening. Being born, for example, I can see that for sure. But then you have companies that will get bought by traditional companies like Nike, for example.
Yeah.
And then you'll have those that are going to experiment, and they could do it just for the buzz. It's hard to say how far they're going to go along with the experimentation, like with their R&D. Is it something that they're looking into to evolve their company? Is it something that perhaps they're going to is it something just for this year and for next year? It's hard to say, and so it's very interesting because you have to pay very close attention and kind of dig in to kind of really find out whether this is a lasting trend or it's just a buzz and just for this year.
Yeah, and I wanted to add that it seems like most of these brands, especially luxury fashion brands, I guess they're sort of enjoying this safe space, what has worked in the past and what's working. And I think change is always so hard to embrace. And so I think that's probably one of the challenges that is being faced at the moment. But I think that, like you said, there's more digital, I'd say, fashion brands like slowly coming up, and I think that it's going to get to a point where it's like, this is what it's going to be. And there's going to be so much value in the space that I think most of these, especially luxury brands, will not have a choice but to sort of, be a part of it. You don't want to get left behind. So in a way, you kind of have to find your foot in there somehow. And as since you're you have a role as a strategist and all of that, I'm just wondering, it seems there's so much going on and there's a lot of experimentation and so much happening. So how do you filter all of that? How do you sort of like focus on what matters? What's like the most important thing that you sort of focus on as you strategize to help these brands and all of that who are like emerging in this space?
Yeah, that's a big question. But really, for what we can do for now is meet up with representatives of these brands and kind of find out what their actual needs are. Because it could be that any of the technologies that I represent or that the companies that are in the Spatial8 ecosystem represent might not actually be helpful for what their actual need is. So. And since all the needs are quite varied, it would be hard for me to say how I can help in broad strokes. It's really individual based, so it's really up to us to really dig in and take the time to really listen to what they're saying, and then say, I know this might be cool and we could get some money from it, sure, but it's not really going to help you in the long term, so we can't help you, and it's really up to us to do that, and responsibly. But I mean, of course, if they don't care and they still want to do an AR marketing campaign, hey,
Right.
we're here to help you. We'll help you. No
Why
problem.
not?
Yeah.
Right.
We do it.
Well,
Yeah.
I love that answer. Thank you. So it's sort of like individual based, so you pretty much focusing on the need of that particular company at a particular time, not just like doing whatever is happening around and just following trends. And so I really love that answer. Thank you. I'm curious to know about your experience in it in terms of like NFTs, tokens, and if you're a member of any DAOs, and what has been your biggest challenge with the crypto or NFT and stuff like that.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm not the early adopter type. So,
right.
I'm kind of, I mean, I'm not a layman, but I'm not an early adopter. So I don't own any crypto. I don't have
Right.
any NFTs. I'm researching it from the outside, studying it. I didn't have a smartphone until like 2019. So I'm that person.
Right.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And it's not bad at all. I think
You
you didn't disappoint me at all. I think I admire that as well. Yeah. No.
So like for my company and for the needs of the clients, then I'm in the space and I'm understanding, and I also have the SpatialNews newsletter. So, and I'm writing about Web3 and I'm writing about Metaverse and the technologies that are involved and the kind of back and forth and this kind of thing. So it really helps. It really helps because there is a lot out there and you have to kind of find the quality stuff and you gotta learn both sides or all as many sides as you can that are relevant to try to understand what's going on now, where can it go, what were the antecedents, who came, what was being done in 95 and this kind of thing. My business partner, on the other hand, he was saying, hey, Bitcoin's going to be big. He does some crypto mining. He has some NFTs. So we kind of balance each other out in that
awesome.
way. So I'm not. It's not like I'm out there and free floating in the space.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you are, because you touched on DAOs. Like, have you been part of any DAOs, or what do you see could DAOs contribute to the workspace?
Yeah, I'm not part of any DAOs. Like I said, I'm still new to all this. Like DAOs, I like the idea. I have to say, we were going to, when we first started the company, we wanted to make it a co-op. So and DAOs and co-ops have some like touch points. Everyone that, for example, works in the company or the co-op is also an owner, and everybody gets. If you're an owner, you get the same amount of votes. One vote. Everybody gets one vote. It's all equal. It doesn't matter if you're a founder, investor, big company, individual. It doesn't matter. And we love that idea. And one day perhaps we'll actually spin our XR Nation community into a co-op or a DAO or a co-op DAO hybrid, whatever. So we really like the idea, and we're really interested in like I said, exploring that space. But there is a very cool company out here in Finland that's called Cleoverse, and they created this Web3 platform where it brings together all the DAO and Web3 projects, and basically the idea is to use NFTs as kind of a proof of talent and kind of verify your professional your activity and professional background. So it gives you an idea, gives you, okay, you can go work at this project, join this DAO, and then depending on how much you do in that project, then you can kind of show. So I guess it's like a future Web3 LinkedIn, perhaps, or something like that.
We have a saying like that, or we have a system like that working as well, that we call proof of creativity.
Yeah,
within our team, because we see that proof of work and proof of stake are not the most sustainable way to go. And also maybe touching on that a bit, what do you consider when choosing blockchain technology? Do you think like it's most important to think about, adaptability or sustainability? What do you think about that?
Yeah, great question again. A lot of great questions. So yeah, well, with with blockchain, I think the first question is how sustainable it is. And the reason that became the first question is when you start working with like fashion companies, and if that's like part of their, if that's like part of, you know, a cornerstone of their business, then, and they're interested in you know, NFTs, and they're interested in blockchain, well then, you know, it doesn't make sense to go with a chain that you know is not so good for the environment, and it kind of would go against the whole ethos. So that kind of got me thinking, well, you know, this is a big thing. It's very important in general, but especially for a lot of the clients. So then that has to be one of the things that are high on the agenda. And then for me, it's also, and I'm sure for clients as well, it's also, you know, how the team working on a specific project or chain is, how they're working out the technical issues. You know, you're talking about scalability, you're talking about, you know, all these kind of issues that are involved. What are they doing to help the infrastructure? What are they doing to kind of go around these big, big problems that really keep mass adoption from happening? I think is one of these. It's like these technical issues. So those are the kind of things that I look at, and the kind of, you know, the things that I'm constantly kind of researching now. Now more than before, because like I said before, we were more focused on XR, and now we're, you know, looking at also the other technologies that are related, and how these technologies will interact with each other.
Yeah, that's amazing. You know, you touched on a very good points, and these are the things that we within the NewCoin team also talk about. You know, scalability, sustainability are very important to us, and it's you know, we are user friendly, so we think about our creators and how can we make a better user experience for all of our creators, app builders, developers, and how we can bring these people together. So I think, and as you said, the fashion industry, you know, if they portray to be sustainable, they should also consider that when choosing their blockchain, and not just you know, speak it out there, but also live it. Yeah,
right, exactly.
And I wanted to add that, like, our blockchain NewCoin protocol, you know, I think one of the things that we care about is how can we create like economic value in terms of, you know, right now we have the crypto space, which is doing its thing, and somebody can mint an NFT and, you know, do whatever it is, earn money. And then in the real world, things are happening. But how can we merge these two worlds? You know, when that happens, I think there's going to be a lot of great stuff can be achieved. And I think that's something we focus a lot on, merging the crypto space and the real world, coming together to create real economic value. And that's something that we were looking forward to and we're all excited about. And speaking of our crypto space, of course, the Metaverse is like all over the place and everybody is talking about it and dreaming about it as well. Some people say they're living it already. I'm not sure where you are at. Do you think which part are you at on the journey? But I'd love to hear what led to your interest in this space, and how you see that impacting the fashion industry, game industry. And of course, I also want to hear about what you think the potential unintended consequences could be.
For Spatial8, the Metaverse is a useful shorthand, because ever since we started our company, the idea always was we're going to start with XR Nation, which is our community of XR companies. But always the longer vision was, how do these emerging technologies that are related to XR, blockchain, AI, IoT, gaming, for example, you know, how do they come together? How can they solve problems? And you know, what world-changing technologies are going to come about from their mergers, you know, and how they work together. So Metaverse becomes like, okay, yeah, this could be the thing that all of these emerging technologies come together to create. So in that way, the hype is helpful, but you know, are we living in the Metaverse now? Is it anywhere close? I don't think so. I highly doubt that, because everything that is being called Metaverse now is, you know, last year was called a game or a virtual world or a virtual environment. So There's a lot of hype, a lot of rebranding, but it's not new either. I mean, a lot of the people that I know that got into XR is because they saw The Matrix, or because they love the idea of Star Trek holodeck, or because, hey, Ready Player One, Oasis, we want to build that. So depending on the generation that you're from, a lot of these people are inspired by the science fiction versions of the metaverse, even though they weren't called that. So as a way of providing inspiration, as a shorthand, as a way of getting attention, it has its place. But
interesting.
Yeah. But
all of our creators were super, pro metaverse, because they're so excited to just get their creative ideas out there. But I think it's really good to hear your thoughts on it, because it is more like we see a lot of like pro metaverse, or like, yeah, it's happening or whatever. But I feel like you said, it's not maybe not be fully realized, or like you said, it's an idea that was there before, just named or packaged differently. You can also see that. I remember I used to play the game Sims when I was little, and you used to have these characters that you dress up with, fashion, and now you can see, hey, it's actually these things that we create in Clo, and like the fashion that we see right now, it looks like the same like the game back then. And it's really crazy to see this this correlation even between the fashion and the gaming industry. Who would have thought,
I don't know what the impact is going to be on any of these, and nobody knows. I mean, because the second question that you asked about the unintended consequences, you have mega corporations, the tongue, but you got what I'm saying. You have that have their own intentions. We don't know what those intentions fully are. We can get an idea based on past experience working with them, being on their platforms, etc. But then you have, all kinds of unintended consequences that deal with privacy. I mean, putting on a VR headset, and it can putting on a full body suit. It can pick up so much information that is way beyond anything that is being collected now. You have cybersecurity issues that can arise. A mixture of. There's just so much that can go on. There's what about the psychology of having an avatar? There's studies that are already showing that people are, they no matter how they dress their avatar, no matter how the avatar looks, they really relate and live.
Yeah, what does it do to your identity? Thinking about that.
To your psychology. I foresee avatar psychologists popping out as one of these
totally
in the future. And sitting down, you have your avatar sitting down with their avatar, and I don't know, but seriously, these are the kind of things we have no idea what the effect is going to be. I think that's like down the line, but still, I'm happy that people are already thinking of these things and applying the issues that we already face with now on social media and these platforms. But
really important point.
You never know.
It's going to be like time, to the second, to the third power when you're talking about, all day online, metaverse, this kind of thing.
Right. It's really great to hear your perspective on this. We've heard different perspectives on this topic, and I really like your perspective on it. And I think that definitely, the psychological aspect of it is something that I think about a lot. And we've seen a lot of issues even with the social 2 platforms. But I'm hoping that since this idea of decentralization, this idea of Web3, sort of like trying to disrupt these issues, that are going on with social 2 platforms, 2.0 platforms, I'm hoping that sort of drive our intention, and I guess one guess that whatever human beings are involved, trust is going to be issues, right? But we hope that, we continue with the right intention, that we're trying to solve some problems, not create more problems, and one guest said, how much power do we want to give to the machine, right? And that was like, I thought about it and I'm like, yeah, actually, how much power do we want to give to the machine? And I guess I don't have the answer, and time will tell, like you said, you know, as the, how do you say it, as the metaverse is fully realized and it reaches where it's supposed to be eventually, I think that's when we will see the actual problems, and hopefully we can create solutions to them, to problem solve. But right now everything is like, it's like an assumption, you know, speculations. We're not sure exactly how it's gonna go and how it's gonna look like. So hopefully as time goes on, we will solve these problems as they come. Hopefully they don't come, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not too hopeful that they don't come, but you know, it's like, you know, if you have the people constantly thinking about these, working these out, you know, regulations where regulations need to be, then we'll be on the right track, and at least we could curtail some of the problems.
Right.
But new problems are going to
we can control it more.
Right.
At least a bit, you know, and not just let it be Wild West.
So, Joh, this was super like insightful, and I'm wondering, is there something that you would like to share with the audience? Maybe what are you looking forward to in the future? Is there something also you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can do some shameless plugs. That's not a problem.
That's what we want to hear as well.
But sure, I can do that too. But yeah, for the future, I mean, you know, I can't help but think of, like, you know, what we're doing at Spatial8, and the idea is, like, right now we're the largest of our kind in the Nordic and Baltic area, but you know, we'd like to be the biggest in Europe. But really, what that entails is what kind of value we can bring to our community, and that's like the constant thing that we think about. It's like, okay, how can we generate business? What other things would help you know, the founders, the developers in these companies, you know, how can they survive these difficult times? How can they flourish? How can we be a part of that? And that's like I said, that's like the thing that we're constantly thinking about. So hopefully by the end of this year, we'll be the largest in Europe. If it takes, you know, 2 years, but so be it. But that's the goal. And then, of course, like how we can help brands, you know, experiment and use these technologies, whether on their own or in conjunction, to help solve problems. Because if you're not using it in a practical sense, if you're not actually solving real problems, then, you know, what are you doing? You know, you're wasting everybody's time. So
yeah,
so
you're wasting time, money.
Time, money, all that stuff. So, you know, then you're not being helpful. And so on top of, like, helping the community out and the industries in general that are involved, XR and blockchain, IoT, etc. Looking at brands and what their actual needs are, and then how we can help solve problems with these technologies.
Yes.
And you know, whether it's, you know, creating proof of concepts, helping them do some R&D. That's a big part of what we're doing this year as well. So, you know, in the future, I hope that not only will new products kind of spin out of this, maybe even new companies that Spatial8 is part owner of, but that we're able actually to solve a lot more problems using these technologies. And then for some, like, shameless plugs.
Yeah, amazing. Let's talk about that. Where can we find you on social? Where can we find you on social media? Where can our audience check what is going on with Spatial8? If you could tell us that, and that would be amazing.
Well, if you're a company that's looking for consultation with emerging technologies, if you're a company that's interested in joining the ecosystem, look at Spatial8.com. If you want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter and we're on Facebook, but mostly on LinkedIn. And we have a new newsletter out called SpatialNews, and I'm writing the ninth edition, and I'm working on the 9th edition. And I talk about Metaverse and Web3 and the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if you're interested,
amazing.
A little dash of humor in there. So if you're interested, you could register and subscribe to that.
Thank you so much, Joh. I mean, this has been an amazing episode, and I'm sure our audience have got a lot out of it, and they're going to follow you and check out what you're working on, and we will do the same actually. So thank you for your time with us. It was awesome. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you for being part of today's forum. If you guys want to get more involved within our community, make also sure to join our private Telegram group. We will put the link in the bio, as well as all the links to Joe, and also get involved on our social media platforms. We are newcoin_NCO on Twitter, as well as on IG. And yeah, can't wait to have the next episode. Joe, Salini, thank you so much for the talk. This was really insightful, and yeah, see you very soon.
See you soon. Thank you.